Hi all, welcome to my new La Liga YouTube channel, Analista de la Liga, with me, Terry Gibson. Mainly, of course, focusing on La Liga on a weekly basis and sometimes a daily basis. If something dramatic happens over in Spain, it often does, if I'm being honest. With the big clubs in particular, there's always daily interest, keeping up to date with Real Madrid and Barcelona, Atletico Madrid and all the other clubs in La Liga, but they're the main focus, of course. And a couple of games last week, I did a preview for the benefit of Premier League fans. Spurs were playing against Villarreal, so I did a little lowdown for Spurs fans on how Villarreal were playing this season. New players, such like the style of play, where the threats would come from, particularly, and then I did one for Newcastle fans looking at Barcelona, because I know we know a lot about Barcelona, even if you don't watch Spanish football. But it was just a guide on how they're playing this season, what system they're playing, if they changed from last year. The new goalkeeper is a talking point. Of course, Marcus Rashford joining Barcelona. So that was a little guide for Newcastle fans. And tonight I'm going to jump on the bandwagon of Nottingham Forest supporters. And I'm looking at their first game in 30 years back in European football. And trust me, Forest fans, you couldn't have picked a better city to go and watch your first European exploit in as I say, over 3 decades now. So it's a beautiful city. It's going to be a lovely trip. The atmosphere in the stadium is electric, and this is in a temporary stadium for Real Betis. Their stadium, the Benito Villamarín, is being demolished as we speak, and they're in this stadium for 2 years. It was known as the Olympic Stadium. Cartuja is the name of the stadium now. 60,000 capacity, and it's full. And they've done remarkable work in this stadium in the last couple of years, because it was one of those with a running track. It's where in the last few years they've played the Copa del Rey finals. He's always played in this stadium now, but it had this awful running track around it which killed the atmosphere. But they've done major refurbishment work in there, and it now looks like a proper football stadium. The city of Sevilla is one of my favourite places in Spain to go and watch a game of football, whether it's Real Betis or whether it's Sevilla. They love their football. It's a city that's split in half. It's red and white or green and white. And I'm sure the Forest fans will enjoy the atmosphere in the stadium. And the climate. It's going to be about 30 degrees in Sevilla. In La Liga games, they're still having to have a drinks break in the city of Seville when they're playing. Either Sevilla or Betis are playing. So it wouldn't. It's going to be. You don't have to take a coat. It's got a bit chilly here in this country now, but it certainly won't be in Sevilla tomorrow on Wednesday evening. So it's a game to look forward to for Forest fans for so many reasons. And as I said, it's a perfect city to venture back into European football. And Real Betis are a good team. Under Pellegrini, 5 years in charge, they've had 5 consecutive years of European football. Got to the European Conference final last season, and a disappointing second half performance led to them getting beat by Chelsea. But they're enthusiastic for European competition. They love the fact that Sevilla are not in European football at the moment, despite the fact that Sevilla have had a remarkable run of success over the last 20 years in European football. But they're lauding it at the moment. Betis, they finished higher than Sevilla in the league. They won the last derby, which was the first time they'd won in about 10 games. So they're really enthusiastic about their performance and their future. And they're a good team to watch. They've got some familiar faces that English fans will recognise. They play a back four, as you can see here. That's the 2 holding midfielders. Giovanni Lo Celso plays as the number 10. Anthony will play wide on the right. So, the other familiar faces, Hector Bellerin, the ex-Arsenal player, is right back. Diego Renti, who's at Leeds, I think he came off injured when he came off injured at the weekend. I don't think he's going to be fit. Mark Roca, another former Leeds player. Junior Firpo, another former Leeds player. Sofian Amrabat, who had a spell at Manchester United on loan. Pablo Fornals, ex-West Ham, of course. Even Cucho Hernandez had a spell at Watford. So there's a few familiar faces, and of course Anthony is the most recognisable out of those players, and I'm pretty sure he'll play in the game against Forest. Now, how do they play? They're a frustrating team because they play skillful attacking football, and I say frustrating because that's all good to watch. At times they're guilty of not scoring enough goals, and at times I think their biggest crime is not getting enough players into the penalty box. So the 2 wide players stay in really wide positions. Isco is missing. Isco is key to everything good that Betis have done in the last couple of years. He's got a long-term injury, so Giovanni Lo Celso has that responsibility of being the number 10, getting himself into the box, trying to get alongside Cucho Hernandez, add numbers into the box. At times, Betis plays so much nice football, but when the cross goes into the box, it's not threatening enough because there are not sufficient players in there. In saying that, at the weekend was their best performance of the season. They scored 3 at home to Real Sociedad, nearly 60,000 in the stadium on the Friday night. And Giovanni Lo Celso was pivotal to that. The best player on the night was Pablo Fornals, scored 1, made 1. And I think they've recognised the need for a midfield player at the very least. You know, the opposite winger, if there's a cross coming in, he's got to get in the box, which Abde Ezelzouli did on 1 goal. He was involved with eventually an own goal by the Real Sociedad goalkeeper, but it was his action that distracted the Real Sociedad keeper, Alex Romero. So the importance of getting the opposite winger in the box, getting midfield players into the box, it seemed as if they identified that. It was a problem at the first half of last season. Second half of the season, they rectified it and they were fabulous, and that's hence the reason they finished in 6th position. And it's a European Conference final, of course. So that's important. So I think Forest have to be aware that the fullbacks, they push forward and support Hector Bellerin, Junior Firpo. It might be Ricardo Rodriguez coming at left back. There's talk of rotations. This, in my opinion, the game on Friday was their strongest 11. So if he makes too many changes, I think it might help Forest. You know, I'm looking at the changes that Mark Barcher will definitely come in for Diego Llorente at the back because of the injury. Valentin Gomez could come in for Nathan at centre-back. Mark Roca could come in for Sofian Amrabat. Sergi Altamira is a good player, could come in for Pablo Fornals, but Fornals is playing so well you've got to keep him in. And Cedric Bakambu could come in up front to replace Cucho Hernandez. So Abde Ezelzouli is an interesting player. He's the left winger. Rodrigo Riquelme, they spent decent money on to get from Atletico Madrid, could come in to replace him. My opinion, Abde Ezelzouli is the player to play at the moment. So again, Forest fans, if he's left on the bench, that's a blessing, I think. So the fullbacks push on in support, but they don't really bomb forward. The 2 midfield players, they work hard, they're industrious, and in the case of Fornals, he gets forward and gets into the penalty box. The more he does that, the better for Betis. Giovanni Lo Celso is taking on the crown of Isco. It didn't really work with the 2 of them playing together, and everyone was excited about Lo Celso and Isco playing as 2 number 10s. It didn't really work. Lo Celso was sort of pushed into a wider position. He's got the chance to play number 10 now. I have to say he hasn't grabbed it just yet. He's been okay. He hasn't been dreadful, but in the way that Isco dominated games, Lo Celso hasn't done that just yet. Anthony is finding his feet at the moment, and fantastic when he came on loan last season, and you could see why he wanted to stay at Betis, and Betis wanted to buy him, and he made it clear that he wasn't going anywhere else but Real Betis. He's idolised by the supporters. I think even more so because he was so demanding that the only place he was going to leave United for was to go to Betis. So a popular player, only played a couple of games since his transfer, so still finding his feet. Abde Ezelzouli is a street player, he's a winger. He's very instinctive. Some days, and I say most days, really exciting to watch. There are games where you're thinking he's lost the plot. He's not at the races today. He's not beating his defender, but whenever he gets the ball, head down, drives the defenders, loads of tricks, loads of skill, he could be a threat. And up front, Cucho Hernandez was a relatively big money signing, as I say, not from Watford, but he played for Watford in the past, and he's in good form this season. So I think he would be the likelier to start, unless Pellegrini just changes it completely. And Cedric Bakambu might come in. Cucho Hernandez is the younger version of the 2 centre forwards, and is the better one. So that's my little guide to Real Betis. As I say, wonderful city to go and watch football, wonderful city to visit, and the atmosphere in the stadium is like nothing else. It's like watching a game in South America. And the Betis anthem, the Nottingham Forest supporters it could blow you away. Not in a bad way, of course. I mean, it's really, really impressive. So have a fantastic trip, stay safe, enjoy the game, and next time Forest play a Spanish opponent, join me on here again.